Okay, we'll be live soon. Hello, everyone. We will get started with the session in just a minute. This is Heather Tainer with Aviso. If you all want to say hello in the chat, that will be great. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today, and welcome to our presentation on a catalyst for change, learning more about the Minority Male Success Initiative project here in the state of North Carolina. My name's Heather Tainer, and I serve as our Vice President of Student Success here at Aviso, and I am joined by two other speakers today, Dr. J.J. Evans and Jamel Pitt, and I will pass it over to them to each do an introduction. Dr. Evans, you can go first.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is J.J. Evans. I serve as the Associate Director of Student Life here at the System Office and current Project Director for our Minority Male Success Initiative. And so thank you for being here this afternoon.
Afternoon, everyone. My name is Jamel Pitt. I'm the Minority Male Success Coach here at Nash Community College, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Thank you all. So today, let's go ahead and get started. We're excited to share more about our Minority Male Success Initiative project and how we believe higher education can be a catalyst for change to help close the equity gap. Our goal is to help break that cycle of equity obstacles by identifying and engaging students who are most in need and to provide an equity solution that meets the needs of those students. So throughout the session today, feel free to type in any questions that you may have. We'll make sure to do our best to answer those questions in the chat throughout the day, but we'll also set aside a question and answer time at the end of our presentation. So let's go ahead and jump right in, and I'll pass it over to my colleague, Dr. Evans, to get us started.
Thank you, Ms. Tainer. So just to give you a brief history of our program, our program was funded in 2003 with a grant from the Governor's Crime Commission, and it funded the what was known then as the Minority Male Mentoring Program. And the goal of that program at the time was to provide for campuses to establish a minority male mentoring program that paired a faculty and staff mentor with a student for either one-to-one or peer-to-peer mentoring. And over time, the goal was threefold. It was to reduce the amount of time students were spending in developmental education, increase student persistence from semester to semester, year to year, and then ultimately lead students through degree completion or a successful transfer. You'll see some numbers over at the bottom of how our program has expanded over time in terms of funding and the number of programs that we serve. And really, another key inflection point was in the 15-16 academic year. Our system basically said we were looking at trends of completion by design and other system-wide initiatives that really we basically stepped back as the system office and said, why are we dictating the types of programming that colleges should be administering to students? And so for the 16-17 academic year, we sort of redesigned what was known as the Minority Male Mentoring Program to what we transitioned to the Minority Male Success Initiative. And so we basically removed the requirement for institutions having a mentoring program on their campus, and we basically gave institutions freedom to craft strategies and or initiatives that they best thought would fit their local campus context. And during this time, we required institutions to focus their intentionality and efforts on their first-year incoming minority male students. And then with the partnership with our research and performance management team, we began creating disaggregated metrics to look at the success of our first-year minority male students throughout our system. And so what resulted in removing the mentoring requirement ended up causing a lot of great initiatives that our system began trying. And so some institutions developed first-year courses, hired minority male success coaches. They looked at research in terms of SESI or other campus assessments. Some institutions purchased early alert platforms or early alert software such as Aviso. Essentially, there were just a variety of strategies that campuses were employing, but what became difficult was to determine which was the most successful and which could be a strategy that could be scaled and replicated across our system to all of the 58 community colleges. And so for our current grant structure, we sort of narrowed down these 12 areas to what we found were the most prominent. And so our current grant structure is we are supporting 22 institutions. 10 of them have an early alert project in which we partner with Aviso to execute. And 6 institutions have hired full-time success coaches to serve their first year and second year minority male populations. And then lastly, for institutions that had successful leadership programs or mentoring programs or still wanted to do a number of programmatic things, we provided funding for them to do so. And you'll see, I believe, on the next map of where the geography of our project. And so all of our yellow or our early alert institutions you'll see here are in yellow. Our success coach institutions are in orange. Our programmatic institutions are starred in green. And then our 2 institutions that transition from the First in the World project to the Minority Male Success Initiative, Roanoke, Shawan, and Carteret are highlighted in red.
Great, thanks, JJ. So as you can see, following up on his slide, this represents our institutional partners as part of the MMSI cohort. And hopefully, I think I've seen some people that are in the attendee list today from some of these institutions. So we thank you for your partnership and obviously the impact that we're having on students. So before we go into listening to Jamal's information on the best practices and their approach at Nash Community College, I wanted to spend a little bit of time just talking about what our role here at Aviso Retention is in the project, as well as going through the project design and some research initial findings that we've had. So as part of this project with our team at Aviso Retention, we have been able to really focus on the student success side of the house as it relates to people, process, and technology. We definitely take a technology-enabled holistic approach to allow success coaches opportunities for student engagement. And our goal is to make sure that those engagements are personalized and proactive and really informed by real-time data. So we've done that with this project where our goal is to combine best practices in that proactive outreach, building predictive models to identify the likelihood for successful course completion and persistence, and ultimately using the student success technology to help with that prioritization and personalized student engagement. So let's talk a little bit about the project design. So when we set out on this project, we worked closely with the system office and Dr. Evans to identify what the project should look like. And it was modeled after the randomized controlled trial project that we just finished up late last year, which was the first in the world research grant where we participated with 10 other North Carolina community colleges to really help determine if dedicated and individualized success coaching leads to improved student success, retention, and degree completion. So, and again, we use the same approach of combining that success coaching, predictive analytics, and technology support. So our MMSI project was much, or I should say, was less rigorous and had more institutional control. And we are not doing a randomized controlled trial study. However, our goal was still to define cohorts of first-time, new, post-secondary, full or part-time minority male students, and assign a success coach to conduct that proactive outreach throughout the term and utilize the support technology and predictive analytics to really help them prioritize that outreach that we were just mentioning. So I just wanted to jump over to a little bit more about the project design elements. This was really important for our team to identify to help with our reporting and ongoing analysis. Each college is assigning cohorts of minority males for each fall and spring and conducting success coaching actions while utilizing the Aviso retention software. Again, since we did a less rigorous approach, some colleges extended success coaching to other students around campus. Also, the number of success coaches may vary by partner institution. And then some other items to note. Aviso also provided professional development and training for success coaches on best practices with the use of technology. We also are providing comprehensive data reports for all participating institutions, as well as at the consortium level. And all of this, obviously, with the larger goal of how can we scale this across the system and make sure that we can secure funding ongoing. I did want to jump in a little bit about the research design for all of you on the line that may be a little bit more interested in this aspect. This was handled by our data science team at Aviso Retention, and we know it's necessary to collect student characteristics and progression data in addition to student outcome data in order to carry out the analysis. And additionally, we needed a lot of data, preferably over time. So as part of the initiative, each institution implemented Aviso Enterprise, not only for the engagement and technology-enabled success coaching that I just talked about, but also for what we call Aviso Connect. Aviso Connect is where we can easily standardize and consolidate data across the participating institutions. And then we can send this data through what we refer to as Predict and display predictive insights within Engage, but most importantly, can easily extract that data for custom research projects. So you can see our goal is predict success, identify risk, with the goal of better student engagement for all of the institutional staff that are using the platform. So beginning with fall of 2019, where we implemented Aviso on each of the campuses, we were able to start pulling in all of the necessary data across each campus. And again, we pull in data from colleague as well as the LMSs, so Canvas, Blackboard, Moodle, whatever system the institution may be using. In design, this is considered a longitudinal cohort study, and this has some advantages. So again, we don't have to create a control group through a rigorous RCT design. We can be more flexible with the institution. However, that does create some challenges and limitations on the analysis side. So regardless, this type of study can really help indicate whether or not a given intervention is associated with improvement in student outcomes, satisfying our overall objectives. So what we did is we used some student characteristics from the SIS, and this can allow for that disaggregated data to be used. So for example, we may be looking at new and returning, full-time versus part-time. Those are just a few examples of some of the ways that we can disaggregate that data. And then from a cohort perspective, we'll actually be collecting four cohorts. Spring 2020, that was the first cohort with Aviso fully implemented. We also did fall of 2020. This term has 2 terms of course completion and 1 term of persistence we can measure. And then spring of 2021, those outcomes won't be completely realized until fall because persistence, we want to look at spring to fall persistence, and then ultimately fall 2021. We also looked at historical cohorts. So that's really important for us to identify what each institution and as a consortium, what that has looked like, obviously historically, versus what we consider the impact terms, which is after spring 2020 on forward, after we've implemented Aviso. So I think just to kind of wrap up all of that information is we've been able to identify some preliminary results. I'll actually share the link in the chat here in just a few minutes around the Minority Male Success Initiative project and all of the documents and research and outcomes that we have to date. Those are all on the Aviso Retention website, so I'll be able to share that in just a few minutes. But you can actually see in the chart that the minority male persistence rate has increased by at least 1.5% thus far in our study. And you can also see that the minority male course completion increased by at least 1.8% so far in the study. And while not scientific, observationally, the 1-term persistence rates experienced in fall 2020 alone were the highest experienced in the past 5 years. So that was exciting for us to see in these early stages of research that we were doing. And just to a couple of other points that I'll mention before we can get in and let Jamel talk a little bit more about what they've been able to do at Nash is we also noted through research that the racial and ethnic gaps in persistence decreased. So when we combine all 11 institutions in our analysis, we find that persistence gaps between white and minority male students decrease between historical terms and those impact terms that I was mentioning. We also, that also leads for us to say that the efforts of student support staff to reach minority male students should continue in the hopes of eliminating some of those gaps that still exist. We also noted that racial and ethnic gaps in course completion decreased. So the course completion gap between white and minority male students also decreased between historical and impact terms, though the overall gap remains high, with white male course completion rates averaging 7% higher than minority male rates. So we also noted that part-time and high-risk minority males were particularly behind their white male counterparts, as were those taking online courses. So we were able to look at various characteristics to really help us identify where some of those gaps exist. And our goal to do this further research as we move forward in this last year is to really associate improvement in outcomes with interventions and to understand more about the what, the why, and the how. So what specific interventions may be working on campus? Why are students being impacted? Does the coaching relationship matter? We actually saw that and had significant impact during the First in the World grant regarding consistent success coaches throughout the project. Does the level of engagement impact success? What types of campus interventions are happening and what is the impact on that? And how can we leverage these types of insights across our campus partners? So I know that was a lot of information there, but we definitely can answer any questions throughout the chat. We'll save some of those questions that are coming in towards the end, but I think it's probably enough about the project and research design, and we want to jump right into the good stuff. This is where we'll let Jamel shine and share some of his perspectives as a success coach at Nash Community College. So Jamel, would you mind just, guys, kicking us off here a little bit, and then we'll go into some of those questions that you typically get asked, so that way others can learn about best practices.
All right, excuse me, not a problem. Again, my name is Jamel Pitt, and I'm a success coach here at Nash Community College. And my typical job is, as the quote says, to help students get across the stage. That is my job. That means I have to help them hold their hand from the very first day they walk into my office to the very last day when they get in their mom's car and cry and not cry. That is my job from start to finish.
Awesome. Well, we obviously appreciate all of your support that you give to these students. I'd like to go through some of the questions here on the slides for you to answer. Many times we get asked about this specific project and the great work that our partner institutions do. So I think for those in the session today, it'll be good for them to understand what this looks like, how you're going about some of these best practices, and really to have them gain further insight on how you approach this project at Nash Community College. So would you mind speaking to the group and giving them more insight on what does the MMSI project look like at Nash Community College?
At Nash Community College, it looks like this, the following. Say all MMSI students are assigned a success coach, and I'm their current success coach from the minute they take their first class to when they take their last class here at Nash Community College. So it can be everyone from our early college students all the way up to our older students. I'm tagged to them and assigned to them to sort of help them transition from the course to course and from semester to semester until they complete.
So what does that, we hear about success coaching, we talk about it a lot, but what does that look like at Nash Community College? Tell us a little bit more just about what you're doing from the success coaching perspective there.
In terms of what we're doing here at Nash for our success coaching, you can say we're using Aviso to track our students, say in terms of their grades and attendance alerts, whether it be staff initiated or automated for the grade alerts. So we can see when they drop below the threshold of 75%, say we automatically get alerted through Aviso saying, hey, John Doe's struggling in his chemistry course. His teacher can also send a staff initiated alert that says, hey, he's missed this test and missed this quiz. I'm trying to see what's going on. He won't tell me anything. My job is to reach out to John Smith and say, hey, usually not this type of student, usually on top of your work. You always turn everything in on time. What's going on? What's going on in your life? Is it something with the coursework? Do you not have an access code? Is something going on at home? Is you just didn't feel like going to class that day, which is what I get from some of my students. I just felt like staying in bed and watching Netflix that day. I just didn't feel it, man. I didn't want to figure out why this beaker needs to be at this temperature for my chemistry course. So in terms of that, it's outreach and sort of figuring out, okay, what's the disconnect? How do I make sure that you have everything that you need to succeed, and how I make sure that you're on the same page with your instructor so that they know, okay, they had this conflict, this, that, and the third. Okay, how do we work around that? Can they make up the assignment? Can they do this? This need to be done? Or is this something that, okay, it sort of impacts their grade, but they still have another quiz or another exam or something that can sort of pick up that slack for that missed assignment. In terms of our other success coaches that we have on campus, students can self-refer if they're not assigned as a success coach. They can say, hey, I heard Jamal's like staying on top of people and showing up to people's classes, which is what I do. I kind of want that touch, or I want somebody sort of checking up on me because I'm not the best student in that class. They can refer and say, hey, I want Jamal to be my success coach, or I want Mr. Ryerson, or maybe Tessa, who's our early college success coach, who she assigned to, and say, hey, I want them to be assigned to me.
Yeah, that is great. I know you just talked a lot about proactive outreach and how they're assigned. I think maybe if you could explain what type of proactive outreach strategies are used in the approach taken at Nash Community College. And I know we have questions coming in for you, Jamal. So after you get through the proactive outreach, I'll go back through some of those questions and maybe ask those before we go on to the others. Okay?
All right. Some of our outreach strategies, it's a lot of it is sort of social media based. Some of it is we're using Facebook, we're using Instagram. We even got some couple of TikTok videos. I'm not featuring anyone. I cannot sing or dance. I'm sorry. But we have a couple of creative students and some instructors on campus. I sort of do the videos. We're sort of reaching out to them in different aspects due to COVID, because a lot of my guys, a lot of students were inside and they were just sort of scrolling on their phones and they'd see like, oh, hey, Nash is still open, or oh yeah, I kind of do need to get on top of that summer class that I keep getting messages about. So in terms of that, sort of broadening our perspective, what our normal outreach is, going along those lines, but also sort of our regular outreach is more based on emails, say phone calls, doing videos like this, whether it be Google Meet, Zoom, or if FaceTime, say you name it. I've got just about every video app on my phone or my computer that you can download off the Google Play Store. So it's sort of getting that high touch. I mean, I'll call you at work. I got a guy now. I got to call after 3 minutes this up. I got to call him back at his job. He's going to pick up, sitting on the line, building the engines. Okay, so you can give me fall classes, right? Like I'm almost done. Like you sure there's going to be a seat, right? So reaching out to him on breaks at nighttime is it's a 24/7 hour job to me in that aspect, because you have to meet them where they're at in terms of the outreach. You have to base it around them. You can't just say, just because I work 9 to 5 doesn't mean, oh, my job doesn't stop at 5. I get emails at midnight to my girlfriend's disappointment. I'm like, oh yeah, can you like pause that? I got to see what so and so is doing, because he just finished up his homework for this chemistry class, and I don't know how it's going to impact that quiz grade or something like that. So those are the different strategy outreaches that we're doing, and all of them sort of have to be tailored to each individual student. Sort of not like a one shoe sort of fit all situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, when we've met before, Jamal, you've really indicated the meet the students where they're at concept. And that seems like that approach works well with your students that you're working with. Just you have to adapt to their communication methods and modes, I guess it would be, and really meeting them where they're at. Would that be accurate?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I've got other questions to ask you, because you guys are doing some great things there at Nash. But let's kind of go through some of these questions, because there's been several that have come through. So we'll get back to those. I think there's some individuals that want to know, are you advising students on what they take? Do you follow how they're doing in their classes? Those are a couple of the questions we'll start with.
I do advise students. I advise students, and I also track in terms of what their classes are and what their assignments and grades are throughout the semester. So yes, some of them come to me and they say, okay, Jamal, I want you to be my everything, essentially. Like I want you to be my advisor, I want you to be my success coach, I want you to be my financial aid officer, and I want you to be my prayer warrior if necessary, if they're religious based. And I end up being all those things for those students. So yes, I will advise them from whether it be a developmental math course or developmental English course, all the way up to a physics class or English, a 200 level English class. And can help you write a paper to an extent, but if you ask me how gravity works and how fast velocity goes, I got nothing for you, but we got some great tutors I can get you in contact.
That's great. Jamal, and I mean, I just will speak up here from the technology aspect. How are you able to keep that all straight? I mean, like, how are you using Aviso or the technology to do that?
Say for keeping it all straight is going through my alerts, whether it be, like I said earlier, automated or staff initiated, checking notes for students, which the instructors can leave on their students. Say, hey, I saw so-and-so and he's kind of acting sort of standoffish, or he's not really his usual self, and sort of keeping track of that. Or, hey, I know you said that I mentioned to check on this student or that student. Hey, they got back in touch with me and they're doing great now. We just sort of had to shore up a couple of issues and a couple of miscommunications about this assignment or that homework or something like that. But just sort of going through the feed and then checking on whether it be on the computer, showing up to class, or sort of catching them in the hallway when they're at lunch, whatever it is, sort of figuring out what they have going on and just one daily workflow, because it's changing constantly, and with everything else we have going on in terms of COVID, it was definitely a hard shift in terms of how we go about business.
Yeah, for sure. And for those that don't know, the Aviso platform, we pull all that information from colleague, and we pull all the information from the LMS, so that way you can easily see everything in one place. So how's the student doing in their class? What's their current grade? What is their last login date? What's their attendance look like? And so Jamel uses all of that information really on a daily basis to guide your conversations with students. So, all right, we've got lots of others. Jamel, you're the star of the show here. So I think, this is something that JJ or myself could answer, but from your perspective, Jamel, how many students are you and the other success coaches working with what's your caseload size look like?
My caseload size can be around 200 up to 500. Say my highest has been around 500, borderline 600-ish. So it can get that huge. But when it was just me, now it's sort of broadened the success coaching aspect, because it's our QEP. So now we have myself, and we have, as I mentioned earlier, our early college success coach. We just brought on another success coach here recently, and we have 2 more who I share an office suite with in our advising center. So it's about around 5 of us now. So we're sort of expanding and sort of going, success coaches are sort of reaching out to different students from different programs. It's sort of broadened it. And we also have a continuing education success coach as well on the other side of the house.
Yeah, that's great. And Laura is asking if you have dual enrolled or just early college students.
We have, well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was about to touch on it, because we also have career coaches, say, who also use Aviso here at Nash, who work in our high school with our high schools for our CCP students, and so they would be our dual enrolled students. So yes, we have 4 part-time career coaches, one in just about whenever each of our partner high schools, and then we also have 2 full-time people who work here as our career coaches on campus, and also work with high schools.
Great. A couple of other questions I'll go ahead and get answered while we're doing this, and then maybe if you can share anything else for the last 2 bullet points. But Terry is wanting to know what the percentage of active MMSI students are from the total demographic prospects on your campus. So I'm not
sure about the exact percentage currently. I would have to check for the summer semester, because ours it's ever changing, just due to we have students, well, now especially because we have students who were full-time, and then when COVID happened, they sort of eased off, and now they're part-time. Then we got some guys that were part-time who are going full on back to full-time students. So it's sort of shifting a little bit. So I don't have an exact number to give you.
Yeah, and we have that. Yeah, we do have that number that we report as far as our institutional research efforts. And I could probably tell you what that looks like. We did a, oh gosh, I don't know how many pages was that, like an 80-page report for Nash and for each institution. And it did talk about that. So I believe, I'm trying to look and see what that number was, but we can look for that, and we can always share that later on with you as well, Terry, when you ask that question. Minority male in 2021, I just found it. The high school population, it was 14.4%, and post-secondary was 14.6%. Does that sound about right?
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
I think another way to sort of answer that question really comes down to how institutions administered the success coaches at their institutions. So some situated their success coaches under the academic side of the house, some put them on the student services side of the house, which will impact how they're deployed. So for example, at one of our partner institutions, they embedded a success coach in every academic division. So their numbers would be lower than a college that has 2 or 3 success coaches, generally for a large student population. And sort of one other thing I'll tie into sort of cohorts and success coaches, et cetera. And so we asked each institution to, at minimum, provide a success coach for first-year minority male students. And some campuses have extended their success coaching services beyond that. Some are GPA based, where if a student is, we'll say, below a 2.25, they'll be assigned a success coach, as well as our first-year minority male or returning minority male population. So I think we try to give institutions the freedom to really craft the student success strategy they thought would best impact their local campus environment.
Yeah, that's a good point. Jamel, one of the things, and this is really important, and I mean, JJ, we could talk about this as well, but at Nash, have you incorporated other faculty and staff into the relationship building outreach process in addition to the designated coach? I think that's really important for us to talk about, because that's something that we talk about a lot with our MMSI schools.
Yes, we do have other, I'll call them volunteers. We have other faculty members and staff members who are sort of taking that torch, who are they may not be assigned as success coaches per se in the VISO, but they are in that role to an extent with those students. So we have some students that will only go talk to, I also teach engineering, so I can speak to that to an extent. They will only talk to the head of the engineering department, because Ms. Lawrence is an engineer. I want to be an engineer. I don't want to talk to anyone that doesn't tell me anything about a sociology class. That's not engineering. That's not what I'm here to do. So she is their quote unquote success coach for those engineering students. Now, if there's an issue or a problem with a student, then she'll let me know and say, hey, could you reach out? Could you talk to this student? Because I'm familiar with them, so I already had that relationship. So I was, hey, what's going on? We also have other success coaches in different areas who might be, whether it be IT based or human services, nursing in particular. So we have, if you ask the entire nursing department, all of them will call themselves success coaches, because they're like, we all save lives at the end of the day. So we're all coaches to some extent. That's so right. They will tell you that without hesitating. So yes, we have sort of expanded it to other areas around campus. Yes.
Yeah, and I think it's important, and I don't know, JJ, if you can speak to this, but just the stressing to all of our schools the importance of the connecting faculty and staff, making sure that they understand what's going on, and their partnership with success coaches, and really also through the staff initiated alert approach, so that way they can have a feedback loop close back to the faculty when they raise concerns. So Jamel, I think that's also really important, is for the faculty and staff to really understand what you're doing and the communication that happens there, to make it more of a true student success network for those students.
Right, that's definitely key. The most important thing that I want to see from the faculty per se is when they send an alert, they say, hey, I'm sending this because I'm concerned about this student. Can you check on it for me? They need to be able to see tangibly, hey, I sent this in, you checked on it, I got a response, you closed the loop. They don't want to see, hey, I sent this, okay, where's it? Hey, you never checked on it, or I didn't hear anything back, or did you ever get it or anything? Because the minute they see that circle not sort of completing itself, then they're going to be like, okay, well, I'm not going to send another one because I didn't hear back from the first one, or I sent two and you only checked on one of them. Every single time that circle has to literally start here and end right back where it started. Has to complete itself, because if it doesn't, then you lose the buy-in, you lose that type of relationship with other faculty members. And that's been key for us at Nash in general, just sort of onboarding people and sort of getting them to buy in. It's just like, okay, so if I send something, you're going to respond. It's going to an actual person. It's not going to go to quote unquote Siri or like a Google Voice type thing. It's just going to hit me back with some automated message like, hey, I received your alert, thanks for sending it. No, it's going to an actual success coach who's going to investigate it and check on it for you and let you know, hey, this is the answer I got, this is the feedback that I got, and this is what's going on. Where do you want to go from here?
Yeah.
I really think our project was designed to combine Rebecca and Richard's question, right? So faculty are key in noticing sort of any academic hurdles or barriers or if Jamal wasn't in class, or he hasn't signed on, or he turned in, multiple assignments late, faculty, hopefully are initiating and raising those flags with the success coaches to then follow up with the student to figure out what may be going on, if it's an academic or personal barrier that may be impeding their progress. And to really touch on Richard's question, we tend to view success coaching as Jamal is their person. So if it's a financial question, they start with Jamal first and let Jamal do the running around in terms of finding the resources and or questions, as opposed to sending the student to various departments around the institution, right? So if it's academic in nature, the same thing. Jamal is the one connecting and finding the resources for the student, as opposed to having the student try to figure out where those resources may be situated within their campus. So it takes really, I guess, an intrusive approach to the extreme, and assigning almost like a caseworker for each student on in his caseload, that your ultimate success at our institution to either successfully transfer or graduate. I'm, as he mentioned, he's their backpack, but more importantly, he knows the campus and the resources and the ways to best, most efficiently partner students with those resources. And so it's intrusive advising and beyond.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, great. And then I'm just looking at time. It looks like we have about 8 minutes left, but one of the last questions is, what strategies do you use for older students opposed to younger students?
Was piggybacking off of what Dr. Evans said, the backpack is a little different for older and younger students. Younger students, the backpack, as I say, is a lot bigger. it's a lot less life experience, but it's a whole lot of, oh, I know how to do that. A whole lot of, oh, I know how to do that, from a lot of the younger students. They think they know everything. They're going to tell you everything that they do know, and they're going to tell you something that a lot of stuff that they don't know, but they think they should know. So with the younger students, it's okay. This is sort of like high school to an extent, but it's the most freedom a lot of them get. They're like, hey, I'm driving myself to school. I know where all my classes are at. I'm doing whatever I got to do. Oh, and hey, I get financial aid and I get a kickback at the end of this. Like, I get a refund. All this is my money. Towards I have to, as Dr. Evans and Heather said, take that caseworker mindset and say, okay, I'm also your budget person. Yes, this is the money that you get. No, we're not going down the street and buying the Honda and going to the pawn shop and getting the gold chain and running online to buy the newest pair of whatever that you see that you think is a good idea. We're going to take that money and say, hey, okay, I have to pay rent. I need groceries. I need gas. And the car I just bought that Jamal told me not to also needs insurance because I cannot ride around like that. So with the younger students, it's a lot more high touch usually. It's, okay, you got this class done, you got this class next. Okay, well, you got an hour. Tell me what happened with your first class. How'd that go? Or how'd this assignment go? How do you like your teacher so far? Is it easier than you thought it was going to be? This, that, and the third. Okay, when you finish with that class, what you doing Wednesday? I'm free Wednesday at this time. Come back to my office and meet me, or I can meet you outside of your class. It's a lot high touch, a lot of in their face, because they're already sort of used to that from coming from high school. They're used to, okay, I go to this class, I know I'm gonna see the same people in this class I see every day, and my instructor is always going to make the same joke every day. So it's sort of just getting them back in that sort of routine that, okay, yeah, it's a little different from high school, but sort of the same. It's a little more freedom, but you need to sort of be able to manage that freedom. With the older students, it's a whole lot of life experience. 9 times out of 10, they've been to school, they've done this before to an extent, or they're like, oh, or I'm coming back because my job said if I don't come back, they're going to fire me, or I need to come back so that way I can get this promotion, or I can stay where I need to stay with the young guys. A lot of it is, okay, checking on them, saying, hey, what you got going on? How's this class going? Yeah, class is all right. School's okay. I mean, I'm just trying to take this class and get out of here, man. That's what I get a lot from the older guys. Some of them say, hey, look, I've been here for 5 to 10 years. What do I need to do to get out of here? Because I was back here in 2008 and I just want to graduate. A lot of that's okay. They look at me sort of like, okay, also, what are you about to tell me, Jamal? Because you look old enough to be my kid. So what are you about to tell me? I was like, what are you going to tell me that my kids aren't already telling me? They already told me, Dad, go back to school. I'm like, well, okay, they tell you that if you go back to school, you could not just keep your job. Maybe you could look into moving up to this spot, or maybe you could sort of expand your horizons a little bit. Because the older students, they're kind of to the point where it's like, either I'm working or I'm doing the same thing, but you had just enough of an idea to say, okay, well, let me actually give this a real try this time. So it's basically, I need to be able to get you to buy all the way in, not just come here and just say, okay, I'm just doing this just to get a C. I don't want a C out of you. I don't want to see out of anybody. I believe everybody can get an A and a B if I connect them with the right resources and the right people, and I give them that personal touch to say, okay, when you finish this assignment, get back to me and we'll start the next one. I'll sit here with you all day and you can tell me about whatever it is. Doesn't mean I'm going to know everything you're telling me about your machining class, or why this does this and why this material heats up and cut through like a hot knife to butter at this temperature. I'm going to sit there and be just as amazed the first time you tell me it as the 10th time you tell me after your third test and tell me, oh, I made a 90. I was so easy, Jamal. Oh, okay. I bet it was, man. I wouldn't be able to tell you how you did it, but if we go back through the notes from last week, I probably could tell you something. But just sort of working with them, sort of figuring out what exactly is that they're doing for the older guys. And at the end of the day, they're all students. They all look to you to some extent to say, okay, you're here for a reason. If you're here every time I show up, then I'll keep showing up. And if I keep showing up, you already told me I get to graduate. So I'm going to keep showing up. I tell them all the same thing. You're more likely to graduate by coming in here, saying hey to me every day, than walking by me and not saying anything, and you're struggling with something, but you won't speak up and say it. So talk to me. You're the job at the end of the day. It's like the lights stay on, the bills get paid, and I keep going to these conferences like this and tell you guys about it because my students keep coming up to me and saying, hey, Jamal, help me with this. And I'll help you.
Yeah. So setting those expectations and really helping them understand the relationship that you can have with them and how you can help is just so critical to coaching. Yeah. So we only have maybe like 3 minutes left. Jamal, I appreciate everything that you've shared. Is there anything else that you would want to share about as our strategies as you guys are going back to a lot of on-campus, in-person events or activities and students being there in the fall? Anything that is of interest that we should know, or any strategies that you're going to deploy?
In terms of the strategies for the fall, is just the main thing is having patience with them. Say a lot of them have been at home, a lot have been inside. Some of them haven't stepped back on the campus. Some of my guys haven't been at the campus in a year and a half. So sort of being patient with them, letting them get back in sort of that rhythm, saying, okay, this is what it feels like not to be sitting in my t-shirt on my couch on Zoom, meeting with Jamal on a regular basis. Oh, I actually have to put on clothes and go back to class, and like, oh man, I actually have to like do that assignment on time and not just talk about my internet went out. Sort of having that patience, getting them back used to sort of that high touch, like, okay, yeah, Jamal is going to show up right about now at this time, at the end of this class, sort of reaching out to them, guiding them, treating them like as if it's their first day back to class is what I'm having to do for a lot of them coming back in the fall. Like, hey, this is your first time stepping back on the campus, quote unquote, welcome back to National College. My name's Jamal, I'm your success coach. Sort of having that high touch, that feel for them to let them know, say, okay, all right, we still can do this. We had a little bump in the road. We had a huge obstacle with this pandemic and COVID, but I'm still here. We can still do this. And that's the main thing. We can still do this. You still have this support behind you. So let's start here and let's get it done. Let's pick up from where we left off. It's the main thing. It's sort of reaching back out to your students who you may have lost or haven't had contact with since last year, is what a lot of them are reaching back out and say, okay, I did the year off. I got 2 part-time jobs. I'm making more money than I was making before the pandemic because everybody's hiring, even if it's just part-time. So I'm going to use some of this money that I sort of pocketed and put away to go back to school. Sort of grabbing those guys and reaching out to them is key.
Yeah, awesome. Yep. And I know that we're about out of time here, but any further questions from the group? We can share these slides and the recording. We'll make sure to get that to the committee and make sure that they can get that posted out for everyone. We did learn lots of lessons so far in this project, and we appreciate all of the partners that are participating in this initiative, and to help identify those best practices and the approach that can be scalable across the system and across all institutions as we move forward. Dr. Evans, anything else?
Everything that you do for our students. Jamel, attendees, anyone that works in our system, faculty and staff members, just thank you for everything that you do for our students.
Great. Any other questions? And then we'll just wrap up. I know there might have been a few other questions, so we'll be sure to get those and to make sure that we can follow up with you. Thanks so much, everyone. We really, truly appreciate it. And we want to make sure that if you do have any questions, you can reach out to Jamel, myself, or Dr. Evans, and we'll be more than happy to share additional information with you. And we did post the MMSI research information that's on our website in the chat. Thank you, JJ, for adding that, and I added it again. So I appreciate all of you.